I got lazy and I decided I wasn't going to light my background.
Yeah, going dark. Going moody.
I mean, I'm bright, despite popular belief. I don't know. I was like, I'm sitting here already. I don't want to get up.
Oh, you got to get up, huh? You didn't do the smart home thing with those?
Well, no, one of them is and one of them's not. There's always the one that's not so bright. And then there's the other one.
Yeah, I think we all know that one.
So, yeah. So here I am, sitting here lazily, drinking water in the dark.
You always knew it would come to this.
I did. I know. I'm a little afraid if I lose power while we're doing this.
We'll be able to tell.
Well, it may be a little scary because I don't even have my overheads off too, so I don't. I'm literally in the dark. I got two lights shining on me, like making my face glisten, and then yeah, I'm very shiny. Oh, that's not good. You need to teach me how to do the makeup thing.
You want to do it exactly the way I do it. You don't do anything.
You just don't do anything.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you're like an actor and stuff.
I am an actor, and if you want to get into all of that, we certainly can. But I don't. I mean,
maybe we should have an episode all about that. You could like dress me up.
Yeah.
In my love.
I think that would confirm a lot of suspicions.
Yeah, but not right. Like it would, but it would. That's not really confirming if it's not true, right? So it would confirm suspicions inaccurately. And what? I guess you're not going to give me more details about what these suspicions are, right?
Oh, I have no idea what the suspicions are either, but certainly
you just know that they'd be confirmed. Yeah. Okay.
I would imagine that would be something that people would be like, "Aha! I knew it!
I knew they did makeup together.
I knew he played dress up." It's a common thing to think about.
Does that warm? That doesn't really warm me. There's this thing, this little temperature control thing. It doesn't really do anything. Oh, maybe it's a little.
Like light temperature or like actual room temperature?
Yeah,
there's
this thing called Nest.
I think is what they say.
And I'm playing with it. It's real. I'm really bright. Okay, well, I'm just gonna deal with it. You folks, all 6 of you who watch this on YouTube, you're just gonna have to deal with my brightness. My unusual brightness.
I like that the lighting is a little bit more dramatic. It's almost like you need to be like sort of a high contrast black and white, and then we get that sort of Hitchcock look.
I be careful what you wish for, my friend, because I can do these things.
There it is.
We have to do this for our Halloween episode.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? I think that would work.
Well, you were talking about on the show today. You were talking about that hotel. That's the inspiration for the Overlook. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you do that?
We should do our.
Yeah. You would? Because Carlos said he's in too. So we could make like a whole thing out of it.
Now I missed. Where is it exactly? Like
it's in Estes Park, Colorado. Beautiful country. Okay. It's just right on the doorstep of Rocky Mountain National Park.
Cool.
And as the story goes, Stephen King. For those who are not familiar with Stephen King writes a few books. I think he's written 132 books. Maybe
he wrote
twice
one
that,
while
actually.
You were talking about him just now.
Probably. And he's a prolific author within the horror genre. And would you call it the horror genre or
horror/thriller?
Spooky
perhaps?
Thriller? Yeah, I don't know. The man's amazing. And he was in...
Mr. Righty Pants.
I don't remember what town he was in. It was close. It was either in Estes Park or close to it, maybe Longwood or Longmont or one of the long places in Colorado. And he was there with his family. I think his wife and son, maybe?
I guess.
I think trying to write. Like, probably on a vacation, but also, we are like, we go on vacation, but we don't really shut off. So
right, yeah.
Not we as in like all
prolific
fours.
writers.
But like, right. I mean, we as in like people who like to keep ourselves busy. We don't really shut down. We send pins to each other.
That's for sure.
And so they I think they maybe had one night left or something, and they decided to change venue and went to the Stanley Hotel. I don't know why. I think someone recommended it, and they checked in like right at the end of the season. I mean, like they're going to close this place down for the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So they are either like literally or virtually the only guests in this hotel. Stephen King and family. And this old hotel from, the 19th century. And he is the experience. I mean, they go to the dining hall and they're literally the only people in the dining hall. Like the others tables have the chairs turned up on top of the, like
man,
you do.
What a weird.
I'm getting chills just thinking of the scene because I've seen the movies, like I've read the books.
Right.
There was a bartender. What's the bartender's name from the book? It's the same name as the bartender who actually served him in the bar. But again, they were
I can't think of it.
He was the only guy at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this bartender. And then in the hall, they had these like long hallways. And so it was just kind of eerie because you're the only one walking down the hallway. I think a lot of us have had that hotel experience.
Sure,
where you walk down some old hallway and you're like, wow, this is like The Shining.
Yeah.
And then in the bathroom, they were in room 217 for those keeping score. In the bathroom, I don't know why I'm remembering all these stats. I can't remember anything, but somehow I remember the room number that Stephen King occupied in the Stanley. Room 217, they had the clawfoot bathtub with the curtain and everything. And he remembers he talks about like opening it up and thinking like, what if somebody died here? And that's
which is
what
the thing
clicked.
you would think that Stephen King would
right?
say,
What if somebody died here? And so then he sits down at his, and he's looking out the window at the vista, and it's winter practically, and he starts just outlining The Shining, and basically in a day, he has that entire book outlined.
Yeah,
and I think he had some weird fever dreams too that night about his child being chased by something down those hallways and stuff, and it's kind of brilliant. I mean, so I think we need to go there.
Yeah, sounds
and
great.
And they have spirited rooms, so you can
spirited rooms.
Yeah, so apparently, like there's room 217, which I don't think is spirited. It's just where Stephen King stayed. But there are rooms that are supposed to be, have more paranormal activity than others. And Ghost Hunters has done a couple episodes there, and some other, anyway.
Yeah, they'd find the ghost.
I think they did.
Oh, okay.
There's an attic floor. Like the fourth floor used to be an attic, but then it turned into a floor. And apparently that's the one that has like the most activity.
Okay.
But I got to tell you, I can usually feel when there's something weird. We've talked about this.
Yeah, your basement.
And I was in a hotel in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, a few years ago. Had this very large room, like a suite to myself, and it was spooky. Like it's this old hotel, like everything's old, everything's got a lot of like feel to it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like it. Nothing weird happened, nothing like weird sounds, just that weird energy, weird energy. Plus light from the people, which I don't, don't get me started.
Yeah.
But of all the places, I stayed in a hotel recently in California in the Presidio, which was right next to the Disney Family Museum, the Walt Disney Family Museum. Mm-hmm. And this is housing, this old like army housing and old army buildings that were converted into these things. And it turns out that this building that I was in used to be a hospital. It was where they brought soldiers from. For many, many wars. And And I was in what is probably the attic. I was on the top floor where it's kind of eaved, and the windows of the room were actually like up high. Like it was weird.
Yeah.
It had that smell to which I actually like the smell, like the old California building smell. I don't know what it is about buildings there on the Pacific. It's great. And then on top of that, they have pictures of the soldiers.
Really hammering it home.
Not just in the hallway, but in the room, like in the hotel room.
This guy died here.
Well, I didn't say that, right? But you think...
Right, but come on.
I don't care. Like, I mean... Like,
if you see a ghost, this is the guy that's probably energy, the ghost is going to belong to.
But so all of that being said, right? I had no feelings. Like, no weird feelings at all.
You didn't get any...
Nothing.
Your ESP
and I'm, so like, it's not like I'm not suggesting that when I feel weird stuff that there's actually something legit, right? I'm not saying
that. You have the gift.
I'm saying it's not a gift. I can tell you that much. I've spent many sleepless nights thinking this is not so much a gift, but this place where I actually expected it. I'm walking in the hallways. I'm looking at. You think I'd have like really like just kind of freaked myself out enough that I'd start imagining things, right? No, nothing. Maybe it's being maybe it's the proximity to Walt. Maybe there's so much like Disney artifacts or Disney memorabilia like feet away that like just bleeds over, for lack of a better term.
It's a well-known fact that ghosts cannot stand It's a Small World. That's documented.
I don't know. I mean, the closest. I was thinking the exhibits that line. The exhibits that would have been closest to my room would have been like the old mill, silly symphonies with the skeletons.
Oh, that's a freaky cartoon, man.
I know. So like of all the stuff, it should have been. And then I even like doubled down and I didn't do this thinking about like, oh, let's channel more, but like when I went on a walk one of those mornings, I walked to the cemetery. There's this beautiful national cemetery there in the Presidio. Which is, I mean, it actually makes a cameo appearance in the beginning of Endgame because
is that where Scott
when Ant-Man wakes up and then yeah.
Oh, cool.
Beautiful place, but historic. I mean, super historic because you can find very recent burial sites and you can find stuff that goes back to Civil War, pre-Civil War. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Cool.
There's also a pet cemetery. So all this stuff going on, you'd think I'd feel something, right? Like something. Nothing. Nada. I did sleep with my windows open.
Or something.
I did sleep with my windows open.
Oh, that's cool.
So maybe it was literally cold. Maybe that does something. I don't know.
It could be.
I don't know.
Could be that... Just like It's a Small World, ghosts just need to have, they can't have fresh air.
I mean, they did put It's a Small World, like, curiously close to Haunted Mansion.
Well, that's keep them away, man.
It's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there.
It's like a citronella candle for ghosts.
It's like a little, like...
Except it actually works, unlike citronella candles.
I know, right? They don't do anything, really.
They do not. They smell, and you smell them, and you go, must be working. And the mosquitoes are going, what must be working? And then they eat you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's citronella. some.
Oh, speaking of eat you, God love Henry. He has been working on me all week. He's been wanting to watch Suicide Squad, like the Suicide Squad. I didn't understand. Like I said to him, like that movie's been out for a long time. He's like, no, it's a new one. I was like, they remade it already. He's like, no, they didn't remake it. They did such a bad job on the first one that they decided to just start over.
Yeah, which
like okay.
I kind of applaud them for because I wish other movies would do that.
Well, I feel like DC does that all the time, right? They
kind of have to. Those poor guys.
Batman
know what to
again.
do.
Batman again. Batman again.
Well, weirdly enough, all of the Batmans have been fairly decent. I mean, Batman vs Superman as a movie was kind of crap, but their version of Batman was pretty good.
Why can't they like hang on to a Batman?
Yeah.
Or swap them out. I get it that people age, but like, how about you just continue the storyline at least?
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and I think that Nolan specifically wanted to do a trilogy so that I have a beginning, a middle, and an end,
which was really good.
It was extremely good. I liked his a lot.
The soundtrack,
a lot. Most people like Dark Knight more, but I think Batman Begins was the better movie. But
yeah, I think you're right.
As much as I love Heath Ledger's Joker, of course, but I think that the reason they rebooted Batman in this case is because they were ready to be up against Marvel, and we can get into this.
Are they though?
Well, see, that's the thing. Is
even their intro isn't very. Even the intro is not real good.
Right. Yeah.
They try to do their like DC intro thing the way Marvel does their.
Yeah, they sort of line up and you see all the characters and like even before Marvel had their massive sort of cinema library, they had the massive comic library and they did it to great effect in the Marvel intro, like when they were just using comics. And even that is something that DC just falls right on their face trying to do. And it's frustrating because I love a lot of DC titles.
Oh, I love their characters. I grew up, I didn't grow up reading comics, but I grew up with the Super Friends.
Sure, yeah.
So
DC and how is it? How can you screw up Henry Cavill as Superman? The guy is like as much as Christopher Reeve was Superman.
I think more so.
Cavill. I don't know. I think that's heresy. But Henry Cavill is definitely there and should be Superman for as long as they can contractually force him to be. But the problem is they keep sticking him in things that they do, and that's no good. The Batman versus Superman. I hear the Zack Snyder Justice League cut of Justice League is better, but it's also like 17 hours long, so I don't know that I want to go into that.
Do I want to watch a Ken Burns documentary, or do I want to watch the director's cut of Justice League?
If I'm going to devote that much time to watching a movie, I'm going to make sure that it's a good movie, and I'm going to watch the extended version of Lord of the Rings. That's what I'm going to watch. Yeah. And I've seen, how many times have I seen it? Oh, probably a dozen. I'll take that 13th time over putting my money on supposedly a better cut of Justice League. Yeah. I don't trust it that much.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But they could do it. I mean, it's because they went straight for the big one, right? They did Justice League like almost immediately. We get introduced to like 2/3 of the Justice League in the Justice League movie. Imagine if that was the case with Avengers, right? If like the first time we had ever seen Hulk and Thor and Hawkeye and Black Widow were in the Avengers movie. This is where we just like completely met them. That would have been crap. It was all of that groundwork that they laid leading up to that made it so good. And DC just doesn't want to do that. They want to skip right to the end. And, well, they suck.
Well, then you definitely need to see the Suicide Squad because...
Well, I want to see that because it's got a 91
it's almost a caricature
on Rotten Tomatoes.
But it's like a caricature of it's like DC's finally made a movie where they feel okay making fun of the way that they make their movies.
So. Because that's the one thing that DC movies have been, except for Shazam and some of Aquaman, because at that point they were going, okay, we have to obviously start putting humor into it. But it was completely devoid of fun. Like Batman versus Superman was the most depressing slog I've ever sat through. It only got fun at the very end when Wonder Woman shows up in costume to fight Doomsday, why are we fighting Doomsday already? But the thing is that when she shows up and they start actually fighting, it becomes a comic book movie at that point. It's like, I don't know, it's like somebody's penance up to that point.
How do you really feel about this?
Oh, I have some...
You have opinions. You got so upset the other night when we were talking about the what if for Marvel. And
I wasn't going to bring it up.
I said... Yeah, and I think what I said is I reject the entire premise, and you like lost your mind, and then I realized like, oh, this is good. Like now I've got them.
Well, I was gonna let you bring
wonderful.
It up because I was.
I mean, I don't even have a reason. I don't like it. It was just more. It was like fun to just watch you reacting to me at that point. Like you're so upset, and I told my kids about this, and they got equally upset. Like they're like, well, what? Like, what do you mean? What's wrong? Like, oh, this is just enjoyable. I feel like I've trapped myself in a corner where like I can't watch it.
Now you can't.
No, I can't. It doesn't matter how good.
So
I said it's like imaginary numbers.
It is a little, I guess, but so you're regardless of whether it was in good faith or bad faith, your argument was that you don't really lend a lot of narrative weight to the whole multiverse thing.
I just feel like it's cheating. I recognize that I have absolutely zero decent ground to stand on with this argument. I just feel I don't know, and I know, and I'm so because I also recognize like how much hallowed ground there is here that I am just kind of peeing on, but I don't mean that. I don't mean any disrespect. I just feel like it's cheating. It just feels like it's too easy.
Well, see, that's kind of the thing is I'm not entirely sure.
And I know it's fiction already. I get it.
In what regard? I mean, I don't. I think that's the part that's so frustrating to me is that I don't know what rules within which we're working when we talk about what's easy and what's hard.
That's totally fair. I'm not saying there are any really well-defined rules, Marcus. Have we just met? What I'm saying is that have you ever watched a movie and like there is a significant amount of like suspension of disbelief going on, right? And you already accept the fact that like this stuff isn't possible, right?
Right. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, for instance.
But then they do something else that seems to break through. Like it's like we have gone too far now. Like and you're like, but and I can't explain why. Like why is it okay to break all those other rules of physics, but this one?
Well, I'll tell you what. I used to listen to a podcast. They don't do it anymore, but it was called Down in Front. And it was basically a commentary track for different movies. And it was the people doing the commentary were people who worked in the industry, but not as an actor. A lot of them were VFX artists and things like that. But they're also kind of funny dudes. And one of the things that they came up with, a concept that I think is really good concept, and I imagine somebody else has floated this because it's pretty rudimentary, but it's the concept of the magic bean is basically what it is. And what that means is there is a single thing that in a fantastic movie of some sort, you kind of have to spot the movie. Like in Harry Potter, it would be the existence of magic. In Star Wars, it's the existence of the Force. It's that kind of thing. But it's when you introduce a second magic bean that is of a different nature, then the whole thing just completely collapses. And the example I always use for that is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Like, we can leave aside the CGI monkey army and how freaking stupid that is. But what you did, the reason that storily, I guess, that storily it doesn't work.
I'll accept it.
Is you're using story as an adverb. Here you go. The reason it doesn't work from a story perspective is that we already had a magic bean in the Indiana Jones universe, and that was that religious artifacts have a very real power to them and will affect other people with their mojo. But now in Crystal Skull, what we've added a new magic bean, and that's aliens. And now we have too much crap on the table, and it completely makes it like a waste. But
don't you feel like Marvel cheats that way all the time? Like they have got like 16 different magic beans going on.
Well, sort of. I mean, it's hard to kind of put that in to apply that.
Let's count them. Let's count them. You got superhero stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then you have gods.
But I would submit though that in the Marvel universe, gods are superheroes that are very powerful. And that magic is a different kind of superpower. I mean, I think
you have superheroes who are like mutations, and you have superheroes who are like bit by something like radioactive caused superheroes, and then you have people who are just superheroes, so like super skilled, or people who have superior technology or intelligence or both.
Well, I mean, superior technology up to a certain point is not necessarily sort of a supernatural thing.
Well, Iron Man.
Yeah, I mean that's one that we have to give them, and there are some.
Well, and Hawkeye. I mean, Hawkeye's got bow and arrows.
Right, he's extremely good with them. I
mean,
I think that
it's still bow and arrows. He's like Robin Hood. He basically have Robin Hood.
Yeah, like Super Robin Hood. And I think that there are certainly exceptions to that rule, but because it would be
keep
hard.
Keep going though. Keep going. You've got the Infinity Stones, which each one has its own little magic bean element, right? And now,
well, yeah, but I mean they are all related, and they explain it as. I think it could now we got time travel. That the energy of the creation of the universe is what all these superpowers are based on anyway.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Right. But
the thing is, they're going to have a unified explanation for this. It's going to be completely made up, of course.
They can't do that because then they'll all come to an end.
Well, at some point.
You can't. Well, no. You kidding me? You don't spend that many billions of dollars and have something come to an end. No way. No way.
That's weird, isn't it? To think that this freaking cinematic empire, I mean, must at some point stop. I mean, in the year 3515, are they going to be coming out with more Iron Man movies? But I wonder what does it. What's going to be the final one?
Well, I mean, I'd love to be here to find out.
Sure, that would be awesome to find out.
Yeah, but
everybody walking around with their iPhone 46s. And
it just feels like once you introduce the multiverse thing, even if you accept it as a concept, right? Which is what it is. It's a theory, and I'll go with it. I'll go with it, especially as it relates to Loki and Doctor Strange and stuff. I mean that stuff's cool. But then to say, okay, well, what if okay, guys, enough. Stick to a universe.
It's all an illustration of the multiverse.
I guess that's my problem. I'm fine with it being dabbled in to a limited extent. Okay, here's a Loki thing and the Doctor Strange thing, and we're gonna and maybe there's the other. What's the other dude? Who's the other dude? That's Big John or whatever.
Big John. Yeah, it's Big Bad John, actually.
What is his name? The guy that I don't want to spoil anything. The time person.
He Who Remains or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
At the end of Loki. Yeah.
He's supposed. What's the guy's name though? The character they start.
It's Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah, who we know there's going to be a movie or a series or something with him. So, I feel like that's okay. Okay, we got this nice menage, something going on there, but that's fine. Then let that be. You don't have to bring Spider-Man into this. I know we already did the Spideyverse thing, so there's that. But we don't have to bring Iron Man and other people. And come on, I don't.
With this one,
and that wasn't even Marvel. That was Sony.
I mean, yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is just sort of here is the consequences of what happened in Loki. Now you've got all of these divergent timelines. Here's one that what's her name? Maggie Carter became Captain Carter rather than Steve Rogers did, and in this other one, blah blah blah, whatever happens.
And Steve Rogers though doesn't he become Iron Man or something? And
yeah,
it's not really Iron Man. It's somebody. It's like Thumper or something. I don't know.
It's Hydra Stomper. But yeah. Well, because they get the Tesseract and Howard Stark is like, we've got this guy that was supposed to be Captain America and he never got to be Captain America. We got to juice him up still. And so he's like, well, we always used Erskine's formula on Carter, so I'll juice him up my way. And he makes him an Iron Man suit.
Mm-hmm.
using the Tesseract as a power source, because that's the first time they've had a portable power source that was
so let me go back to the premise of this. So is the premise of What If that like all of the What If things were actually caused by the events in Loki?
Sort of, yeah.
Or is it that they just always exist? They always were, out there happening?
Well, that's what like as soon as Carter makes that different choice, then for whatever reason
that created a splinter, right?
The time people would have shown up and zotted that timeline and put it back the way it was supposed to be. But now that they're gone, that timeline is free to exist.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry. And
we should put a big spoiler alert.
And I keep keeping up with this stuff.
Yeah, I know. What's the like basically acceptable time that you have to wait for somebody to watch to catch up on something?
I don't know. That's a good question. I feel like at this point I'm not. I have a hard time
2 weeks
just saying stuff about some stuff that has been
Return
around
of the Jedi
for
Empire.
For stuff that's what was it the other day? I was like, I don't want to spoil this for anybody, but it turns out that it wasn't this bad. But it was it turns out that Rosebud's a sled. But I can't think of what the movie was. It was just about as old.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically they're taking all the movies you've seen and going, hey, what if this thing in that movie went just slightly differently, and then
or significantly differently.
Little story about it, and it's and you say it in these little ways, like with Doctor Strange or with whatever the other thing was that you mentioned, but this is very small in that regard as well, because it's it's 30-minute cartoons about these hypothetical split off into another timeline.
Maybe I'll watch it.
It's fun. And
Henry said to me, so you're not going to watch it, so I can watch it on my. I was like, it's fine, watch it on your own.
But they got a lot of the real people to do the voices and stuff. That's pretty impressive, to be honest. And then I don't know if they're going to be animated by different people, or if it's going to stay the same sort of animation style the whole time. Goodness, I kind of wish they would do different animators just to show different styles and stuff.
I can't deal with that, man. I can't deal with that. Look, the world is already stressful as it is and unpredictable. I'm already dealing with this multiverse that shouldn't exist, and I can't remember names. I can't remember They throw this at me and it just makes things more confusing. And so then in the future, when we're watching a movie and it's on some other timeline, and I'm going to say, well, wait a second, didn't such and such happen? And then someone's going to look at me and say, no, dummy.
Well, dude, you'd be so much less prepared if you don't watch this show.
Well, I don't know.
You'll at least have a passing sort of familiarity with Captain Carter, because she's supposed to show up a couple more times in this show. Really? I don't know if she, I don't know if they're going to bring her into
is she going to show up in Loki?
Yeah, I don't know. It's possible.
Well, maybe not. Maybe she will.
I don't know. I don't know when season 2 of Loki.
You know who's probably not going to show up?
Who?
Black Widow.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably.
She got killed.
Unless she shows up as a cartoon with a different voice.
She may be in the cartoons, and they'll, that people are like, "Oh, it's the last time she's going to work for Disney." No, corporations don't do that kind of stuff.
All's fair in love and war. Yeah. All's fair in love and war. Yeah.
Yeah. She'll show up. I mean, because it's not Feige that's doing it. It's her beef is with top level stuff. Kevin Feige is on her side, kind of, as much as he can be, anyway.
God, I feel bad for him. I watched my boys hadn't seen the movie Chef, and
I love that movie.
It's one of my favorite movies, and we sat down and watched it as a family, and man, it's like Ron Howard should have made that movie.
It feels like that, or like Ivan Reitman, maybe. Yeah,
or Jon Favreau, like who did make it, and he wrote it, he directed it, he starred in it. He even learned. He learned his cooking skills. He learned for that movie. It's not like he was already a cook. When you're watching him chop for real, and that's him chopping. There's no stand-in. There's no chop double. He had to learn that stuff.
Yeah. I always remember
from
that behind the scenes sort of featurette or whatever. I always remember the guy teaching him how to make that grilled cheese sandwich where you got to put it in, you got to do the thing in the butter or whatever.
Bougie, yeah, yes.
And that is one damn fine looking grilled cheese sandwich right there.
Man, I'm telling you, and everybody loved it. The kids loved the movie.
It is so good.
I just think when you have somebody like that in your studio and they've demonstrated like a series of successes, I mean,
and across a wide range of feels and
if it wasn't,
focus.
I would argue this, if it wasn't for Jon Favreau, I don't think the Marvel acquisition would have even happened. Probably
not,
because he did Iron Man and Iron Man 2, and so
and he kicked the whole thing off basically.
Yes, and you look at what he's done now with
Mandalorian. Oh man,
yeah,
and all of the other stuff that's going to come out of that.
I think guys, is, you know what, Kevin Feige, Jon Favreau, just hand the keys over.
Yes, absolutely,
and say yes to anything they ask for. Because it's going to make you $1 gazillion, and it's going to make people like us very, 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 very happy.
Because he respects the material. He is a fan already of like Star Wars and all of that stuff. When you look at that Disney gallery or whatever that's about Mandalorian, and my favorite parts of that aren't the things that are like behind the scenes. Look at this cool thing and.
The table talk. Is it the table talk?
It's the dinner with five or whatever kind of sections where it's him and Filoni and the various people talking, or the actors are all got together.
What's her name? Well, Ron Howard's daughter.
Yeah,
Ms. Howard. Ron Howard's daughter. Yeah, and like that's the other brilliant thing about Favreau. Like he hands it over to these. Like he doesn't have so much ego that he's like, oh no, it has to be my vision, my thing. But no, he's like, no.
It has to be good. That's all he. I think that's all he cares about.
And true to the story, and true to the fans as well.
And the thing that I love so much is the little stuff that shows up in like Mandalorian that if you're not of a complete and total super duper crazy man Star Wars fan like say me, you missing this doesn't kill anything in the story. Mm-hmm. But for those of us who are super fans, he throws stuff in there,
the troop transport.
Yes, that never showed up in any movie. It was a toy, and my God, when it shows up in what is it, season 1 finale? It shows up and those guys are in it. And I'm like, oh, dude, that's the thing.
That's the thing. We all had that.
And it had the 6 buttons that made the noises on the top.
It was amazing. And well, I mean, and the guys on the speeders, the stormtroopers on the speeders. I mean, that whole dialogue between them, and
that was hilarious. That reminded me of there was a fan movie called Troops back in the mid 90s, before the prequels were even talked about seriously. That was a parody of Cops that followed the squad of stormtroopers on Tatooine, and they had to respond to you got to look it up. It's just called Troops. I'm sure YouTube has it, but it was back when it took like an hour to download a 35 by 12 friggin' movie file. But and they had to respond to a domestic violence dispute at the Lars homestead, and it's Owen and Beru like yelling at each other about Luke. Is really funny. It is so funny. That's what it reminded me of. But like little stuff like in the one that had what's his name as the sheriff of the town that had Boba Fett's armor. And
really
they showed
good.
like the Sand people were riding single file. Like they didn't point out, they didn't go, look, they're riding single file like Obi-Wan said in the first movie. They just did it, and if you noticed it, you were like, oh, and if you didn't, oh well. But that's the kind of stuff I love is little things like that show that he knows and loves this material, but he's not there to do the blatant fan service. And that's the biggest beef I had with episodes 7, 8, and 9 is so much of that was there to make fans go yay, but I mean it didn't have
to
any
seethe.
Well, that's what it ended up doing. It was intended to make everybody go woohoo, but a lot of us were like, really? But yeah,
not to belabor a point.
Yeah, second week in a row we talked about that.
Sorry,
but it's so good.
I think Jon Favreau, he's a gift.
He really is.
He's a gift, and Kevin Feige.
Whatever he touches, like when in the Marvel stuff, he does the same kind of thing, man. Like who would have thought to do Iron Man of all characters? Nobody knew who Iron Man was.
He was kind of a kick butt character, though.
He is a kick butt character, but it's not a fan favorite.
No,
it's
not
like you talk to anybody about what Marvel characters. I mean, most people aren't going to be like, I don't know, Superman. Yeah, I get it. Marvel, DC, what do you care? But like they've heard of Spider-Man. They've heard of well, they may have heard of Thor. No, may not know it. It's a comic book character, but there's Hulk. People knew about Hulk. I think most people had no clue who Iron Man as a character was. It's hard to think of that now.
Yeah.
That world that people don't know who Iron Man is. But before Iron Man came out, I remember going, that's an interesting character to do a movie about. But it ended up being freaking brilliant. So huzzah. What do I know?
Well, I know. And I'm sure, from a licensing standpoint, it was easy.
Yeah.
It's not like trying to do Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, somebody else had those rights at that point. But
I just think like I'm thinking about other people within Disney, like Imagineering. Why wouldn't you just put Joe Rohde in charge?
Amen.
Right? Like, why not just say, you know what, you've done some amazing things.
That guy has done just isn't a massive success.
Or Tony Baxter, right? Like, how about you guys? You just be in charge. Like, we'll have budgets approved and stuff like that, but otherwise, just as long as you stay within budget, do your thing, man.
Yeah.
Like, do your thing.
And if he needs to go beyond budget, consider letting him go beyond budget.
Well, it would be so here. Can you imagine this system? Is this almost like the precogs or something in Minority Report? Like imagine you have Feige and Favreau, and you have like, let's say Joe Rohde, right? Mm-hmm. And the three of them get to decide like what things move forward. They all have to stay within budget, but like if one of them says, okay, well, I want to do this thing, but it's outside my budget, then one of the other two have to give them the money to do it. Like, okay, we'll take money from this so that you can do your thing over here. We'll take the money from, so like, and then that way, I mean, think about it. God. And I'm sure there's other people we're missing. We don't know. We don't know people who are like super hyper talented that are on the merchandising side, consumer products, people who are on the other experience side, people who are on the the television side. I mean, I'm sure there's genius all sprinkled throughout, and we're not as familiar with those other folks, but
I bet you one of those guys is,
Oh yeah, and I just. Unfortunately, I feel like, and I don't mean to. I listened to the earnings call last week.
Oh yeah, I did not.
You should just to like skim, because you should. I mean, because it's not going to make you happy, unless you're an investor. But it's just, you hear a lot of talk about. There's lip service that's paid to the storytelling being important, and what becomes clear that it's truly important is the price per. I mean the revenue per head, revenue per, whether it's guest or viewer or whatever, and not really any true talk about the creative side like that. I mean, if I was doing an earnings call like that, and I realized that it's all about conveying the shareholder value that's been created, blah blah blah. But man, if I was doing an earnings call, I would have Favreau there. Favreau, hey, talk about the upcoming thing.
Yeah,
Feige,
like how can you not point to the Mandalorian and say that right there is a massive cash cow, and realize why it is a massive cash cow? It is because of the storytelling. It is because of all that stuff that Favreau and Filoni and all those guys are putting into it. And that's why it's such a big earner for them. and why everybody is like jazzed out of their minds for Book of Boba Fett, for Mandalorian season 3, for the Ahsoka show.
Who's doing Ahsoka?
There's no way that Favreau is not in the hierarchy for that. I don't know who exactly is doing it, but it's got to be. He's got to be in there somewhere. He's got to be in. If they haven't placed him in charge of Star Wars television. I mean, I think it's still
Kathleen Kennedy.
She's definitely in charge of Lucasfilm, but I mean, if they have a TV division, there's no way that Favreau is not.
Well, my concern is that everything. It doesn't matter what they have. All the creative, everything. It all channels up through Chapek's off, and I don't mean of course it flows through him because he's the CEO. No, it all has to get greenlit by what's his name, who used to be his chief of staff. I can't remember his name. Who I'm sure is a nice guy, intelligent guy, talented guy, but we saw what happened under the Eisner, sort of the post Frank Wells period. When they had Strat Plan and you kind of made everything funnel through this little committee. Of people who were not creative, who didn't come from that area, because it's all about we're kind of manage. They're all managing the contracts and the pipeline, the distribution. It's all about distribution now, right? And so, I don't think it's going to end well. It's almost
a cliche at this point that about the studio exec that ruins a movie or a property with I don't think they're doofus I don't input. Even mean.
Yeah, I don't even.
Well, of course not. But they should. I don't think. See, I have seen it happen so many times that they want to.
I don't get the impression that Chapek believes that he is in some ways more creative or smarter or something than these guys who are doing the the creative
I'm sure
stuff.
It's all about ego, but
it's about process. I think there's ego about the process. There's ego about the structure. I think that they think that, if they perfect this structure, if they perfect this, if we do all of the creative planning and is actually done based on how we want to distribute things, well, then that will be efficient and it will allow them to be creating things that we want to distribute through our various channels, right? But it's so instead of having the creative stuff compete with itself, compete with each, because that's what has to happen for great stuff to emerge. You need a lot of competition happening. You don't want to have it coordinated from the top down. This isn't war; it's creativity.
Yeah.
And you have so instead they have this. They're strategic look, and they're saying well, that's the hill we need to take. Therefore, let's look in our creative bag and see what we got, who can do what. And now we're going to greenlight certain things because we have that hill to take, that very specific hill. Instead of saying, we just want to be able to take a hill. That was the way the classic studios work. You have movies, right? You have to put stuff in the theaters. There's 2 ways to distribute things, either to the theaters or directly to television. Or I guess directly to the video machine or something. But now, because they have the Disney Plus thing happening, and then they have the fragmented markets related to that, everything's gotten very complex on the distribution thing. So they want to make sure that we're only developing content that is designed for those distribution channels, rather than having the content kind of come up creatively and then figuring out how to distribute it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to potentially really ruin the creative side. That's my fear.
And hopefully somebody will be able to say, hey, and point that out.
I think so. 2 years I think 2 to 3 years, and then
it could be. And I think that there's a certain amount of from people like Chapek, there's a certain amount of a desire to reject the idea that the individual is important in this. I think the corporate mindset is that I'm sure it makes them very uneasy to depend on the creative spark of a Jon Favreau, and that they want to believe is that the process can work no matter who is working the process. And that to someone in that corporate mindset, the individual talents of a person is something that you can't quantify. You can't bank on that. And so you have this person and you have to use him as a resource, and that's something that they can't or don't want to have as part of their business model or their, I mean, it's kind of stupid.
You mean like Walt?
Right, exactly. I mean, it is absolutely antithetical to a media empire like Disney that you would reject that idea. But I think that corporate mindset is exactly that. I mean, the whole movie Rollerball is about that. It's about the corporate mindset wanting to squash the excellent individual and elevate the team over an individual, and anybody, because apparently the game of Rollerball was supposed to be a game that one person can't excel at the way it was designed, and when one person does, well, the corporation declares war on that person. So I think that this is kind of a universal constant that was seen at least by filmmakers in the late 60s, early 70s, and certainly is true today. But I don't know. I think they should embrace what they have. They should kind of go back to the idea of, hey, look, Walt Disney is very much, the Jon Favreau of his time or whatever. Let's stick with that.
He's like the George Washington equivalent. I mean, you're not going to get another Walt, right?
No, and the environment that Walt did what he did is also something that's never going to come back either. So
correct.
I mean,
right. So stop trying to do that. He was the right guy
for the right time, but he was he was that one little spark, to coin a phrase. And you got a spark like that in Favreau. You got a spark like that in Filoni.
Yeah.
Fan the.
I mean, you look at Pixar. I mean, the reason Pixar.
Lord have mercy, look at Pixar.
Pixar only works because of those characters who are involved, the three of them. Like
Absolutely.
You can't Catmull and Jobs and Lasseter. Like, you can't. I mean, and with the magic provided by George Lucas.
Right, and
really get everything
their
going.
ability to find like Brad Bird and people like that, and they're like, "Aha, one of us, come make movie." And then what do you get? You get some seriously awesome stuff like The Incredibles. Mm-hmm. It's about letting the right-brainers do stuff.
Yeah, and when they tried to, it was kind of brilliant that they insisted, when the acquisition was happening, that they insisted that they still be able to retain their own process.
Yeah.
For doing things and not impose the studio process, because that would have killed it.
Yeah.
That would have killed it.
To this day, I would say that, there have been movies that are more and less popular. I would say the only real failure they've had is Cars 2, and I can't imagine that they weren't placed under some sort of pressure to create Cars 2, because it just doesn't seem like it had that inspiration.
There was Good Dinosaur.
The Good Dinosaur? I actually, weirdly enough, I haven't seen that one.
There's a reason.
I guess so.
How many people have said, you know what, you should see Good Dinosaur? I can't believe you haven't seen Good Dinosaur.
Admittedly, I have never heard anybody say that.
Exactly.
I forgot it even existed until you said it. There's
somebody I spoke to recently who said they really liked it, but I don't know.
But even like the lesser, the ones that people don't list among their favorites, like Brave, it's still a freaking good
Brave's
movie.
Great. Wait, but Brave, Brave is from Pixar. You're right. Yeah. I had to think of the Wreck-It Ralph scene.
No, Wreck-It Ralph is really good. It's not Ralph. Pixar, but yeah.
No, but the Ralph breaks the internet scene with the princesses, and then she comes. She's from the other studio.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it. You can't understand a word she's saying, and they're like, "Yeah, she's from the other studio."
They don't sing over
there. Anyway, well, now that we've cleaned up Disney.
Yeah, and if anybody that works in Disney hierarchy is listening to this, I'm Marcus, he's Jason. We would love to give you guys some advice directly. We're available for consulting. The Accidentally Derivative Consulting Studio.
And we apologize in advance for all the things that we got wrong.
Yeah, that's it. What have we been wrong about something? Come on. Get a grip.
Well, there's that one time.
Oh, that.
What was that one time? Yeah, that one thing. I don't even know how we steer. I mean, I don't want to stop talking yet. I'm not finished with you. But I don't even know how to steer off of this thing. I feel like we've lost all the people who are not interested in comic books, superhero movies, and the Force at this point.
I feel confident about this one though, because we weren't actually talking about, I mean, I guess a little bit in the Marvel stuff, but instead of talking about Jedis and the Force, we're talking about movies that have those things in them without talking about them themselves. So maybe we're okay. I don't know.
Okay.
Stick around. I'll put a little note at the beginning. Stick around. It's not all like this.
Don't promise them you can't deliver.
That's a good point. I mean, maybe in an alternate universe, we did a very good episode this week.
I don't know where we go from here now.
Well, I tell you where we need to go, and that is a thing that you sent me earlier today.
You're gonna pin it? You're gonna pin me?
I'm gonna pin you and say, talk to me about the lemonade stand.
Oh no. I feel like we've talked about this before. But maybe not.
At this point, that's
Did we ever talk about the kids that chased me down? They were like shaking me down, practically.
Shaking you down?
No,
I don't.
We
don't think we have.
We have a lot of lemonade stand activity in our neighborhood, and
really, that's something that I always kind of feel like is sort of a urban legend at this point. That lemonade stands don't really exist.
A couple of months ago, there were these kids who. They had a menu. It wasn't even just lemonade. They had like multiple things, and they didn't just stay at the stand. They had this one girl she was like the salesperson, I guess, but more like it was more like I don't know. It was very evangelical. Like she would go forth, and she went like blocks away. From the stand to get people's orders. Knocked on doors.
Huh.
She knocked on people's doors.
You know the good news of lemonade.
Hey, would you like to have such and such? And I watched this one lady say to her, like, well, where is it? She's like, oh, it's right down over here. I'll get it for you.
Wow.
I just need to know what you want.
Little DoorDash thing.
And
that's actually pretty brilliant.
Kid you, every time I see this happen, what ends up happening is that the people just say like, no, just here's $1. I don't need the thing. Just take the $1, right? Because I'm not drinking. I'm sorry, kids, but I'm not drinking your lemonade.
Well, that's you.
I don't know what's in it. I don't know where it came from. I don't know whether you stirred it with your finger. Like, I'm not drinking your lemonade. I would love to buy it. But here's the problem. I don't have money in my pockets when I'm out walking in the neighborhood.
Right. I don't have money in my pockets when I go to places that want money.
And the smart kids, look, if you're listening, smart kid, get some sort of app that you can just like accept Apple Pay or something. Mm-hmm. Like I can beam you money because then I have no excuse. If I walked up to some kid and I said, and they were like, oh, would you like to have some lemonade? I'm like, I don't have any money. Like, we accept Apple Pay. Yeah. I mean, what do I do at that point? Okay. Yeah, I can use my watch to pay. Great. Here you go. That's going to happen, Marcus. It's going to happen.
I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. I mean,
these kids, parents, they're not thinking. These parents are anyway.
Get a Square account. Go.
Square's big fees with Square. But here's the thing. This is what happened to me today. It's quite the conundrum because I want to be helpful. Like I want to give them.
Sure.
I want to reward them for putting themselves out there. I mean, it takes, especially in the summer in Florida.
Yeah, we're better
on the weekend. Right, to be putting yourself out there. To set it all up and to go through that, I mean, like I like that, good for you, good for you. However, as much as I would like to help, I literally don't have money on me, and so And I don't, and I'm not going, even if I did, like, I'm not going to drink the lemonade. I'd rather just have a donation box or something. Like, give me a reason to like donate. But because of that, this is embarrassing. I end up avoiding them. So today, or no,
I
it
see
wasn't
this
today,
in
it was
my
over
head,
there.
and it's hilarious.
It was Sunday. I think it was Sunday. I'm walking, and these kids were set up, and instead, I could have kept going straight, and I'd have to pass them, but I can see them. I see ya. And I decided to like go this, instead of going this way, I'd like go this other way, so I can go doop, boop, boop, like around a different way. It doesn't really save me any distance, but it's a different way to go, so I don't have to walk past that part of the sidewalk.
Right.
And I never have to make eye contact with them. I mean, I avoid them by a block. Good. And I realize, Marcus, this is happening, and I'm thinking to myself, I am a 48-year-old man avoiding these like probably 10-year-old kids at the lemonade stand. Mm-hmm. And I thought about it, and I still did it, Marcus. Like, I still did it. There's something wrong, and I don't even. And I thought to myself, you know what? I don't care. I mean, at this point, what am I going to do? Like I don't really. This is not a phobia I need to conquer. Like, I don't need to be able to have. I don't want to have a conversation. I don't want to slow down.
Right. Yeah.
I want to slow. I don't want to slow down, and I don't have a coin to like top. Like can't like flick a coin into the fountain or something as I go by. Like,
here you go, kid.
They're gonna stop. They're gonna ask me, and then I feel like I don't want to hurt their feelings. I want to be like, no, it's not you, it's me. You know, like, I didn't prepare. If you were out here every Sunday, maybe I'd bring $1 along. I don't know.
It's just the awkwardness of sort of preemptively disappointing these children.
Right. I'd rather just avoid them altogether than have to tell them no. And I don't know whether that's wrong or not, but it bothered me enough. It's not quite as bad as the times where I will go past somebody and I'll ask them like, well, how long are you going to be out here? I don't know why I'm asking them that. I'm not coming back.
Right. You want to give them that hope.
I think that's what it is. Like, why am I? But then I get home and I think later in the day, like, God, I hope they're not still out there waiting for me to come back. Yeah. Well, no, Mom, we can't come in yet. Honey, there's a storm coming. But he's coming back.
He said he was coming back.
Gosh,
come back, Shane.
So now I just rather avoid it altogether. You know? Like,
right.
Just.
Well, I mean, I guess there's something positive behind that. You want to hurt the kids.
I don't want to hurt the kids.
Yeah.
But I don't carry money. Maybe I should start carrying some dollars around when I walk.
I don't know that I could scrounge up $1 in my house.
No,
I don't know that I have cash money.
Go somewhere
anymore.
And get change. I mean, I could just do it. I should just. You know what? That's what I'm going to start doing.
Yeah,
I'm going to start carrying. Yeah, I think so.
Carrying lemonade money.
I'm just going to carry a couple bucks, and then that way and I'm not going to. And then when I come upon the table, I'm going to say, here, don't. I appreciate it, but I'm exercising. Just take the money. Here, good job. Good job.
Yeah. You got some gumption, kid.
Can you make it?
I like your spunk.
Can you make change for $1?
Can you make change for $1? Is what you're gonna say.
I mean, I'll start giving them advice. Is what I'll do. Like, dude, like, don't charge. Like, charge. You want to charge? What you want to charge is like 95 cents, or charge like $1.95.
Taking sales tax out of that.
Like, you want to get, because people will say keep the change, right? So get close to the next whole $1, but don't go quite up to it, and then make it, because people don't carry change, so just charge like $1.75. Like, be like, they'll give you $2.
Why don't you just charge $2 for it? You're getting the $2 either way.
Because it feels like you.
The $2
because
might
it
be pricing
allows
some
people to feel like they're
it.
being generous.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you like talk about the Lucy that you got running around. Aggressively selling this lemonade to people in their homes.
She's dangerous.
Yeah. It's like, well, maybe we pull her back a little bit. I appreciate the spirit, but
and she and here this was the weirdest
hard
thing.
Sell.
I think her parents are spies.
Okay, this has become the most interesting part of this. Now,
because
this is the
girl, the evangelical,
right?
lemonade person. She was speaking. She was going door to door, and she's speaking perfect English. I mean, she's like 12 years old or something. Like I can like. Okay. She goes back, and she starts yelling down to her friends at the stand. I guess yelling the order, right? I don't know what she was speaking, but it sounded Russian to me.
Uh-oh.
Like, I mean, full on like Black Widow, but good accents. Like it was. I'm like, oh man,
Lemonadska.
What is there hustling? Like spies like us are hustling.
I think you can take solace in the fact that the Russians wouldn't field spies that had no problem screaming in Russian down the street. I think they would train against.
Well, maybe
that.
They're like children of former spies.
Yeah, it could be. Now that might be.
You know, the ones who stayed here. They're like, you know what? I'm going to stay. I'm just going to stay. Boris, I'm going to stay.
Turns out this is better.
Yeah,
I like this better.
Yeah, it's warm.
There's.
And we don't have to eat borscht all the time.
God, Russian cuisine, right?
I do like stroganoff.
Is that Russian?
I don't know.
I mean, I know it sounds Russian, but
it feels Russian.
If it is.
It probably isn't. I don't
But, what I like is that it allows the United Kingdom to look at somebody else's cuisine and go, like, well, at least we're not that. Oh, we boil pizza, but we don't eat that borscht stuff.
Yeah. I don't want to say anything that's going to get me in trouble about the UK cuisine.
But, they know.
I feel like
that's why there's so many Indian restaurants there.
Yeah. But they eat weird stuff for breakfast, like beans and blood sausage and
that sounds like a Klingon dish. Blood sausage.
But it's not called blood sausage, it's called black pudding. Or something pudding. Whatever. Is it black pudding or something? Anyway, it's blood sausage. Pudding. And what else do they eat? Weird stuff. Yeah. For breakfast.
That was
breakfast
what was
is supposed to be
hilarious to me.
Ease your way into the day.
When I went to when I was in South Korea, I was studying at a Catholic university in Daegu, and when you went into the cafeteria for breakfast, they had the Korean style breakfast. It was two different sort of buffet tables, right? And one of them was the Korean style breakfast. And one of them was the American style breakfast. And what they had on the American style breakfast table was downright hilarious.
What was it?
There was French fries on there. There was, they had the beans. I tried to tell them that's really more of an England thing. Yeah. But yeah, and then like salad, like a green salad. And just like you're going, I would like to offer my consulting services here.
What do they have at lunch?
I like, see, at lunch, it just becomes Korean cuisine. From that day, breakfast is the only time they have English style food or American style food, or what they call American style food. I mean, I guess it is American style, but it's just not American style breakfast. Exactly.
So wait, what was on the Korean table?
Oh, they had basically just kind of sort of kimchi is on there. Of course, that's everywhere. And it's good. It's amazing, especially when you go to Korea and get it.
I don't like kimchi.
That was kind of the coolest part is that, see, I'm German by my mother's side. And so we dig us some sauerkraut. So I
love sauerkraut.
I feel the kimchi thing because it's basically spicy.
Missing something. It's missing. It's just like it doesn't have the flavor of sauerkraut.
It doesn't have the tang, but it has more spice.
I think that's what I'm missing.
And I dig
maybe,
that,
but if they could just add a little more tang to it, I think I'd like it.
Yeah, it could be. It's some sour chi. You're gonna do a middle ground between those two. But that was what was really cool about that is that we were at the university and it was all very modern buildings, but out back of the cafeteria was this very traditional low Korean wall, the Korean architecture kind of wall, is the only thing on campus that had that traditional architecture. And within that wall, it was just like a fence around a little sort of outdoor area. There were all of these jars, these clay jars, and that's the kimchi fermenting out there. Like they're making it, and it's in this very traditional looking area of a very modern campus. And it was really cool to see that. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but.
Well, you were going to breakfast.
I was going to breakfast. Yeah, that's true. And
I don't know.
I think kind of interesting thing was that all meals, when you get done, like when they got done, they got up, got a thing of water, drank it, and then left. It was like you didn't drink during your meal. You didn't have a glass of water with your meal. You ate your meal. And then as you were leaving, you drank a glass of water before you left, and then you took off.
You stood there and drank the water? Like
you
got a glass of water.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. There. And I don't know how traditional that is, or if that's just a student thing, because you got to wonder how much of this is Korean culture and how much of this is like student culture in Korea. You know what I mean? So that was kind of interesting to me, though, that they don't drink as much with their meal, like water. And they certainly don't drink a lot of like Coke or anything like that during their meals. They may drink that stuff as a sort of a snack kind of thing I don't remember there being as many vending machines in Korea as there were in Japan. But in Japan, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting like 15 different just amazing vending machines that have like magic choice. And wonder in them.
Why would you pick that?
Well, it's colloquialism, American style.
I think we haven't, not good on time today to do this, but I think we should talk. We need to have a cereal conversation.
Oh, yeah.
I know we talked about cereal that like tears our roof up, the roof of the mouth, but I think we have to really explore that more fully. I had this conversation with my two sons yesterday about choices of cereals and what cereals are acceptable, and to have a conversation with a college-age student about acceptable cereals in a dorm environment was really enlightening to me. Yeah. So we have to. I think we're going to come back to that.
The ideas of what is unacceptable are going to be wildly different from your own.
It was very interesting.
We may have our first pre-planned episode next week.
A pre-pin. We have a pre-pin. Yeah.
A pin that was generated by another episode. A meta pin.
Interesting. Oh. Look at that.
Finally, we have direction. I knew we'd find it eventually.
Someone has to remind us, though, because we won't remember.
Yeah, because I didn't. Yeah, if we don't text it to one another, then.
Where's that
thing
cat?
We're going to talk about?
Yeah.
Where's that cat? Swing it again, Sam.